Southwest Louisiana, and welcome to our 10th episode of From Change to Change. So glad that you could be with us. I'm Chachi, as you know, with Vote, and
Matthew Green here.
And Consuela Sway Games.
yes, and we have an awesome show today. We're going to have a very, very special guest a little bit later, and I'm not even going to reveal the name because this is a very special moment for all of us. But on this episode, guys, we want to talk about the results from the election and basically what that means for us, right? So, what you guys think?
I'm scared.
It certainly has an impact on South Louisiana, that is for sure, in multiple ways.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm just, I'm a little anxious to see what will take effect with us directly, you know, because like the presidential election was a nationwide federal election, and sometimes things that take place federally doesn't impact us as hard or immediately like
a governor's race,
Right.
which is
Exactly.
immediate. And we're seeing the governor's race continue to have impacts with the most recent special session.
I mean, Donald Trump, he won. Lafayette, he won this area. He won Louisiana. So I guess over half of the country supports Donald Trump. Kamala, good race.
But I think there are going to be a lot of ways that, and it's, you know, votes priority is criminal justice reform and voting rights.
Right.
But there are going to be a lot of ways that it affects South Louisiana beyond that, because there are a lot of different federal agencies involved. You know, you think about environmental protections, you think about education, you think about civil rights, and all of the people in charge of these organizations will be shifting over with a new administration coming in.
Yes. I'm curious to see how, you know, because we, like you said, we are a organization of mainly formerly incarcerated people, which means that we have felony convictions. So I'm just kind of curious to see how, you know, meaning that our president now, you know, I mean, it's facts that he is a convicted felon. So I'd just like to see how that is going to play out for us, because we've been on this fight for such a long time to get some equality, to get some fairness, to get some rights, you know, just to get our foot in. So, you know, we just have to.
I think there have been a lot of people who've sort of rung that bell and raised that alarm in the criminal justice reform community to say, hey, we shouldn't be talking about convicted felons in a way that makes them out to be pariahs. Like if you want to vote on the issues and vote for your candidate, make it about the issues in your candidate, and whether your candidate was Donald Trump or it was Kamala Harris or it was somebody else, vote on those issues. But there are so many people affected by mass incarceration that to write people off is a battle y'all continue to face, and people in South Louisiana continue to face daily.
So I am kind of hopeful to see what us having someone who has many felony convictions in the White House, and to see how that will affect us locally. You know, because our prisons, you know, they're already doubling up at Angola. The prisons are bursting from the seams here in Louisiana already. So, and a lot of the laws that have been passed, the prisons are just going to swell up even more. So I'm wondering if something will come from the federal government that says,
offer
hold
some
up,
reprieve for us.
let's slow down with all these felony convictions. Because isn't there a bill being proposed now for juveniles to be charged as adult for certain
certain
crimes of
crimes.
violence,
Crimes of violence,
at the age
right.
of 14.
And so I think
So-
it's an important thing that we talk to our viewers and we have a conversation, because a lot of people don't know how a federal criminal justice system is different from a state criminal
Yes.
justice system,
Okay.
and what the impact may be from, say, a Donald Trump election versus a Jeff Landry election.
Right.
And that most of the prisons in Louisiana are that we
State.
talk about. Angola is it's Louisiana state penitentiary. It is a state
Right,
prison.
right.
But there are federal. They aren't federal prisons, but they house federal.
Federal inmates.
And they're often in Louisiana. We find for-profit
Right.
prisons,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
house detainees for
Yes.
immigration.
Yes. Yes.
Which I think a lot of people are saying will be a consequence of this election, is that we're going to see a lot more for-profit
Yes.
prisons,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
and that are going to unfortunately be aimed at immigrant communities.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Which I think is, anybody who knows about for-profit prisons and for-profit mass incarceration, it's a really, in our view, in my view, bad situation, because they make their money on how full they are.
Yes.
And we don't want we want fewer people in prison because we want fewer sort of safer communities, fewer
Yes.
people committing crimes. So you don't want prisons to be full, and so for-profit prisons kind of create this dynamic where it's like they're out there trying to fill them.
Well,
Yeah.
but then there is a contract with for-profit prisons, with private prisons. There is a contract with Louisiana that a certain amount of beds has to be filled or they void the contract. And that was a lawsuit on Louisiana, on the state of Louisiana, just a couple of years ago because of that. And I mean, I've never heard anything, I haven't heard anything about it recently, but you know, that,
And so we see a lot of that with the federal government, but the state, as you're mentioning, right? Like the state runs a different system. So the federal government, you have Department of Justice, you have their systems, and then the state, you have a separate system, which I don't think a lot of people realize, that there are two different systems, two different court systems,
Yes.
two different everything.
And usually the Bureau of Prisons, you know, on the federal level, they kind of do the oversight of the state levels. So they are connected, but they're disconnected.
they're disconnected. Right.
And one thing that we recently were talking about was trying to make sure that we start really educating people about the different branches of government and how things run separate. You know, they're on their own, sitting on their own bottom, and how people can get more involved and really understand. Because I noticed there was a low voter turnout amongst African Americans throughout the country, and even here in Louisiana for this election, lower than the 2020 election. So I'm like, what's up with that? Why aren't African American people of color getting out to vote? And I think that a lot of it has to do with people just not connecting with
Or just a lack of knowledge of
a lack of knowledge, but at
What
the
it
same
does.
time, people just not connecting with any of the candidates.
right,
There's that.
right.
You know,
right.
so one thing that we at Vote are going to be trying to push, I don't know if we're going to do a campaign or some type of initiative, is to really start educating people about the different branches of government, you know, because there'll be other elections coming up.
There will be.
And we don't want to see more lower voter turnout. We want to see people to get out there, because
Right.
we were out there canvassing. We did our part. So we don't want people to feel like there's no hope, you know, because some people, you know, the people that they did elect did not win. I mean, but that's a reality.
That's a
in
reality
any
of-
election.
right, Yep.
Sometimes
right,
you
right.
win, sometimes you lose.
Right,
And
right.
so we don't want people to feel like because the person that you voted for did not win, that you shouldn't vote or that you
Yeah.
shouldn't participate in
Right,
voting
right,
because
right,
it's a process.
right.
We just need people to understand that we need more people to get registered to vote. We need more people to turn up at the polls.
And I think there are two really important parts core to Vote's mission that you just mentioned. One, that education aspect, right?
Yes.
Letting people know, because it's really important that federal oversight sort of can see what's going on the state level, because we just had Ronald Marshall on last
Yes.
episode,
Yes.
and he was talking about the overcrowding, the morale, the
Yes.
issues that are going on at the
Right.
state level
Right.
because of the new the crime session bills.
Yes.
And without the federal government being able to say, hey, no, don't do that. That's not humane. You shouldn't be doing that. That becomes a really, really important part of
Right.
Vote's core mission of advocating for formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated. Then the second part is coming up in the spring, very soon will be the legislative session. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
Yes.
knowledgeable about who's voting, and there's no matter who gets elected, we have to work with those people. We have to try to work with those folks to get our agenda and get laws changed in Louisiana, because somebody wins the election every single time, and those are the people we got to work with, because they're going to be the people sitting in the state legislature
Yes.
every
Yes.
single year, passing these bills or not passing them.
Yeah, so that kind of brings us back to we had a federal election, right? We had the person that came out on top for my district, District 2, was Clay Higgins, right?
My district also. But we have a
Yeah.
brand new district,
We
a
have a
brand new
brand new
district in
district
Louisiana
over here.
that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes, yes. And that district, District 6, we have Cleo Fields, who won that spot. Congratulations to him.
Mr. Fields, yes.
And I just want to say congratulations to all of those who ran for that particular seat, from Quentin Anthony Anderson to Albert Guillory, Wilkin Jones, and Peter Williams. Hats off to all of you gentlemen for getting in that race for that new district. And for that, there were 23,528 people who actually voted.
From
in-
Lafayette.
From Lafayette, for that particular race, and Cleo won by 51%. Yes,
Wow.
yes, yes.
So, I mean, it's important because every 10 years a census happens, some of these districts
That's right.
change.
Yes.
And so here in South Louisiana, we had one, but now we got, that District 6 actually goes up into, I believe, St. Martin Parish,
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
just north of us,
Yeah.
and picks up some of those voters there. And so there are a lot of people that now have a new representative. So if you're in District 6, make sure that you reach out to Cleo and you
Yes,
make
yes.
sure that you know
I
who
think-
your representative is.
I think the way it runs is kind of weird,
Mm-hmm.
but so I don't know if everyone or is aware that parts of their district has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might want to look into that, just to have yourself informed, and if so, reach out to Mr. Cleo Fields and build that relationship. Let him know what you expect. You know, what you expect him to get out of it.
Federally.
Federally.
Because I want to, because, I think I'm going backwards to the Himbola incident, right? And I know that Clay Higgins really stepped up in that, because HUD is over Himbola.
Right.
And so this is a federal issue. So when or if anyone have any other problems in Himbola, reach out to Cleo Fields, because he's your new representative that is in District 6. So that's your person to reach out to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there were also some other races. There was, we talked about it before, the Public Service Commissioner with your former Senator Jean-Paul Cousson beat Nick Laborde and Julie Quinn in that one. I'm curious from y'all, right, because there were a bunch of different elections. Which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact on South Louisiana from across the board, right? Because we've talked about a couple different races. There's the
Yeah.
presidential race, there are local races. There's a constable, there's city races. Which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact on South Louisiana?
Ooh, I think, honestly, I think that this District 6 is going to be interesting to watch because, I've heard that it may not last. It's being challenged. So, but I'm really hoping that Cleo Fields will be able to get to Washington, D.C., and really be able to bring some issues that are near and dear to our area in Louisiana on a federal level, and be able to, especially when it comes to criminal justice reform. He has been a champion for some of our bills. I know the first time I met him, I was still incarcerated at LCIW. He came into the prison with the Black Caucus and had a conversation with some of us. And so, and that was years ago. Ooh, it's been a minute. So he's been around a long time, and I think that for someone like him with the experience that he has can really probably be beneficial, with criminal justice reform, even on that federal level. Hopefully we can get him to be able to speak to some things that are very important to families who have loved ones who are incarcerated in the BOP, and make some changes. Changes are always good, for the better, and I think he would have some really good insight to bring to Washington and really represent Louisiana.
Yeah, I think he's experienced enough. He's been around long enough. I think he will.
Which race do you think is going to be the most impactful for South Louisiana?
I would have to agree with Sway. I would have to agree with you, Sway, on that because yeah, it's warranted to have that District 6.
Yeah.
We have so many issues, and I think that that probably was one of the issues, was that it was too much. Like, they needed to add a new district.
Yep.
Because it was just too much on the people who was trying to handle the old ones.
Right. So, yeah, because I'm thinking, like, even the Public Service Commissioner.
Yeah.
That one's going to be...
Yeah.
Jean-Paul Cousson, my light bill is too high. So, and I'm sure, like, a lot of people, even my Cox cable bill is too high. I'm like, come on. And I know a lot of other people are feeling the same way. So our Public Service Commissioner, who will be representing us, is Jean-Paul Cousson. He's currently our senator until January, but we hope that he'll be able to be one of the 5 people who sit on the Public Service Commission that will be able to find a way and figure out a way to get these businesses, these companies, to not hit our pockets
Price
so
gouge.
hard, or
Price
electric
gouge.
bills and gas bills.
Yes.
Yes. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, especially when we think about electric bills and other utilities, is the Public Service Commissioner, they actually have the power to sort of regulate the companies, but tell them what to do, sort of in the sense of, like, we have a lot of hurricanes and flooding, right? And so making sure that the electric companies take precautions to be safe in hurricanes, so that we have fewer power outages, so that fewer people lose their power in the sweltering heat. So, right, like, getting the companies to do that,
to be proactive,
in protecting folks, getting in front of it. I think that one's going to be very important.
And I think,
also.
and I think that's probably what we need, is brand new ideas, person coming in there brand new, because like I said, sometimes these officials get laxed when they've been sitting there for so long. They get laxed and they get accustomed to getting away with stuff, but we all know it doesn't take but 1 second for something to happen, and then so we need them to be proactive. We need
Yes.
people to stay on top of that infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for when those things do happen, make sure that they're sturdy, make sure they're durable, make sure that,
Well,
equipped to
and,
withstand what's the
everybody,
elements.
everybody thinks about the bills and what hits their pocket. But for some folks, this is also life and death. If you
Yes,
think
yes.
about losing power
Yes,
in
yes.
Louisiana in
Yes,
August,
yes.
when it's 100 degrees.
Yes, yes.
We
yes.
saw in Texas when they had the ice storms and people lost power and it was 30 degrees and
Yes.
people were in houses without heat.
And
Yes.
the governor went on vacation.
And
On
yeah,
vacation.
and so right, like it certainly affects our wallet, but it also for some people, right, this is it can be life or death in
Yeah.
these situations about whether their utilities work.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we often take
yes.
that for granted too
That's
too often.
That's true. So, and that's kind of like where we want people to really be thinking about in regards to these elections. Like, what can these people, these newly elected officials, who a lot of you voted for, what can they bring to the table that will benefit you and your family and your communities? There were not as many forums out this way that I saw, but whenever there are forums, I know we did have, we participated in one legislative forum with our legislators, and whenever you guys see legislative forums, any type of forum, any candidate forums, be sure to attend these events because
Yes.
that is your opportunity
Yes.
to meet these
Yes.
people, to ask questions, and to kind of get to know them. That's what the forum is for.
Yes.
If there are meet and greets,
Yes.
attend these events, y'all, because when you don't, you to me, you're just kind of doing yourself an injustice, doing
Right,
your family
right, right,
an injustice
right, right.
by not going into those booths, being informed.
Right.
So take advantage of anytime someone presents a legislative forum, some type of candidate forum, so that you can be an informed
Yes. Yes. Yes.
voter when you do vote.
Yes. And I would say that, when you don't attend, you miss the opportunity to learn your official,
Yes.
to learn where their mind's at. Now, and I understand that, because I used to be one of them, I know a lot, because I come from the era where they, they talk good and, tongue is like sapphire soil. However, we're in an age now where, I think our officials are more on their toes because people aren't just sitting around anymore and just letting anything go.
I was going to say that attending the forums actually gives you a chance to see how the candidates or your elected official are able to respond and think on their feet. Because if you just read the websites, right, everything is packaged.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it doesn't really give you a chance to say, like, oh, does this person actually know what they're talking about? Or are they full of hot air,
Yes.
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 Do they just have
Yes.
prepackaged
Yes.
lines
Yes.
that they
Yes.
keep saying over and over
Yes.
again?
Right.
Or
Right.
are they
Right.
able to
Right.
talk in depth about an issue? Are
Right.
they actually
Right.
know what is
Right.
going on?
Right.
That's true.
And I think coming on this forum, and we come on 2 times a month, and we try to talk to folks and get in depth and talk about the issues. And I think that's a really, really important thing because for so often, as you were saying, Marcus, we've got people are fed up with their elected officials not solving
Right.
any of the problems
Yes.
that we have, the
Yes.
insurance
Yes.
problems, right?
Yes.
Like fortifying for hurricanes, all these things. And so we do need people who are capable, who have solutions, who are smart people, problem solvers,
Yes.
who are also caring about
Yes.
the folks in
Yes.
South Louisiana
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And that's not everybody. That's not everybody.
True. That's
No,
true.
it's not.
And that's the thing too. Coming out of these elections, we have to watch what people are doing. They make a lot of promises
Yes.
while they're campaigning,
Yes.
knocking on doors, asking for your vote. But we have to really pay attention to what they're doing and hold them accountable.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have to hold them accountable.
Yes.
And I think that's the part that we're lacking. We're not holding our elected officials accountable like we should. And that may be a part of our educational piece, is the how do we hold elected officials accountable? How can that happen? How can someone who is feels like their community is being underserved, they're not getting the things that, you know, they're wanting to shut down their schools and all these different areas. How do you as a citizen hold an elected official, even if you didn't elect, you didn't vote for that person,
Right.
whether you're not a registered voter or you're a registered voter and you went and cast your ballot, you voted. So, you know, a lot of people feel like, well, I didn't vote for that person, I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican, so I don't want to talk to him or something like that. But no, they're still your elected official.
They are.
And you still can have conversations with
And
them.
that's such an important point, because I was going to add to that. It's something we've talked about before, about holding them accountable, but I also think we need to raise our standards for our elected officials.
Yes.
So often I have seen people say, well, so-and-so helped me out, or they cleaned out a ditch where I had flooding.
Yeah.
We should demand great education. We should demand, right, like good healthcare systems. We should demand a state that doesn't incarcerate more people than countries do. We should demand all of these things and not settle.
Clean water.
Clean water,
air,
healthy air, right?
Yeah.
We should demand all of these things and not settle for anything less.
Yes, because what ends up happening is that we allow them to manipulate us to forget that we employ them. I know that's a wild way to put it, but basically we
Norris
employ
says
them.
it all the time. Norris and Chico say it all the time.
Right. We employ them, and what happens is if we never address them, we become accustomed, because we adapt and we adopt. So we become accustomed to the way things are, and so then our kids become accustomed to the way things are, and so we have to, we have to break those chains.
We were talking about that before this show out in the lobby before we got on the air, just about how we have to raise the expectations, because we can have all of those things.
Yes,
right?
we can.
There's no reason for
We
Louisiana
can.
to be
We
48th,
can.
49th in education when we could elevate the status.
Yes.
We saw in the 2017 justice reinvestment, bills that we can change the criminal justice system for the better, despite what others will say about crime rates, right? Like we saw rehabilitation. We saw people coming out and coming home and improving their lives and getting jobs and coming out with skills from training programs. And now we're hearing there's so many people incarcerated that they're going to have to start cutting those programs because they can't fund them, and they don't have enough spots. They don't have enough people for the programs. And so everybody's going to end up being worse off.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still have a lot of work to do behind these elections.
And there's going to be more elections. I think that's the other part of this. It's the work continues.
It continues. It's nonstop. Because like you said earlier, I mean, we come out of this election, we're getting ready to start making preparations for the legislative session. So, and right now we're in the middle of a budget session, a special budget.
And they've tried to sneak in a bill about crime there. Senate Bill 2. Senate Bill 2. Sway brought it up. And it's a bill that will change the state constitution to allow children as young as 14 to be tried as adults, which is just terrible. Because I know that there have been tons of conversations, and the whole point of the juvenile system is to rehabilitate and to help kids get on the right path, provide them skills. It's a very different purpose than the adult system.
Before they become adults.
Before they become
correct
adults.
them before they become adults.
Yep. It's the whole goal is to prevent crime.
So now we just make them adults earlier.
Make them adults earlier.
Yeah.
And think about that. 14.
Wow. It's crazy. So, we're getting ready to do a quick shift and
We
with
got our
our
secret
very,
guest.
very special guest. So stay tuned. Hello, and we are back with our very, very special guest, Miss Patricia Colbert Cormier. Miss Pat has been a Vote member probably as long as Vote has been here in Lafayette, which is about going on 8 years. Right, Miss Pat?
That's right. Yep. When you started up on
she
Travis.
she's been here for a long time with us, and we certainly appreciate her. So, Miss Pat, thank you for coming in today, and welcome, Queen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a long time since I've done anything public like this. But because of my two friends right here, I decided I would do it. And to help educate the public about why voting is so important.
Exactly.
So look, so I just want to say personally, I want to give big love out to Miss Pat because look, I'll be honest with you guys. This woman is amazing, and that's the reason why we needed to, well, not wanted to, we needed to give her these flowers while she was here because this woman is the definition of mighty. Right? I mean, my mom was a strong woman, but my mom never lived to see. How old are you, Miss Pat? If you don't mind the world knowing. I mean,
I don't mind. God's been good to me. I'll be 81 years old tomorrow.
Look at this, 81 years old tomorrow. And look, during this session, during this election, Miss Pat has campaigned more than I did in that sun. More than Sway did. I mean, just voluntarily said, I'm going by myself where I had to go look for her. You know what I'm saying? In that sun. So I just want to.
Door knocking.
Door knocking.
If we door knocked on Sundays, I think she would have door knocked on Sundays.
She actually did it.
Was serious.
Yes, she was serious
about this past election. So why was it so important to you, this election, to get people to get out and
I was
vote?
brought up during the Jim Crow era. And I remember where we went to segregated schools. And my parents, my mother really kept us sheltered. We really didn't know what was going on. I always thought everybody was related to everybody and everybody did the same thing. And then as I grew up, I found out that wasn't so. When we'd walk down the street, we had to either cross the street if there was a white person coming, or we had to put our heads down. I didn't understand that. But we didn't have school buses to pick us up to go to school. We had to meet at a certain point for the bus to pick us up. And in those days, I was living in Truman Addition because when people say we're from a poor family, like some of these other people say they're from a poor family, they don't know what poor is. They have no idea what poor is. And my mom struggled, and she sent us to parochial school. I went to school at St. Paul's, which is now Holy Family, and I went to Holy Rosary. But we all got along because we all knew each other. We go to each other's house. We were all the same race. Yes. Still, I didn't know about the other side. When I got to UL, that's when I found out that there was a difference because they just segregated UL in the mid-50s, and I got to UL in 1961. And I remember I helped my mother do a paper when Hurricane Audrey came through in June of 1957. And I stayed up watching everything was going on and jotting down notes. So she took my notes and she wrote a paper. And the teacher told her that no, that paper was not written by her. It was written by somebody else and gave her an F on the paper.
Wow.
And so she dealt with that. And a lot of the older teachers still here in Lafayette Parish, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So as I was in school at UL, it was USL at the time, I remember one instructor, may he rest in peace, I had a high B in his class, and he didn't put my name with my face until the last day when I went up to ask him about a question on my final exam. And I came out with a D in that class.
Wow.
I went to the dean of the department. I went to the president. Nothing was done. I had to live with that D.
So you're saying simply because of your race?
Exactly, exactly. The black students would normally sit in the back in the classroom, but I was always different. So I sat in the front. I sat right in the front.
You would.
But the teachers let us know that they really did not want us there. They did not want us on UL campus. And we could not go study on campus at night. We could not be caught on campus at night at UL. When the basketball team, Bullimore and Peyton Townsend and all those others were playing ball, they didn't stay in the regular athletes' dormitory. They had to live off campus. And that's when they supposedly changed the name from uh, the Bulldogs
To the
the Raging Cajun. Now, that was never officially done. That was a marketing thing. So they still go on by Raging Cajuns. So after a while, we was able to start going, but all the off-campus students, all the out-of-town students had to stay off campus for a while, until 1965, 1966. But we would not go on campus after that. If you go to the Newman Center, which was old at that time, we have Newman on campus, they would, we had our own little section, or we'd hang out at the Newman Center. We wouldn't go to the student union because of the racism there. And so we would hang out at the Newman Center at the Catholic Student Center. And they played ping pong all the time, and we would get there and study. But we just couldn't go. So what helped me make it through college at USL, I'd go to Mass every day, which is something I continue doing ever since.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I played the organ every day at 12 o'clock
Now you
Mass.
see, I just learned something new about
Yeah,
you.
see, she
I've been
just-
around you almost 8 years and didn't know you
Yeah.
play the
I
organ.
played the organ at
Oh,
12
Miss
o'clock
Patty.
Mass.
And you're a
Holding
musician.
out.
You're a musician and didn't know you played the
Oh,
organ.
Well, I haven't played in
man.
so long. It's been a long time.
Oh, really?
It's been a long, long time. Because I played the organ at St. Pius X Church, which I attended for a while. So anyway, I graduated from there, and I went to teach at St. Paul's School, my old alma mater. I taught the 5th grade there for about 2 years. Then I went to Holy Rosary Institute, and I taught there for about 6 years. Then I left, and I went to Lafayette High, which really let me know that blacks really were not welcome, and that I did not fit in. 'Cause I never thought about the color of my skin. I always did what I
Right,
felt I could.
right.
And I always felt I could do anything I wanted to do. And I went to Lafayette High. I could tell the difference there. The white teachers would be in the lounge, always talking, gossiping about the students. That I didn't like in the first place. So I would stay in my classroom, because my thing was, if you treat students as young adults, it may have changed now, but a lot depends upon the teacher. I treated all my students as young adults, and I never had trouble with students. The principals whom I taught under could tell you, if I send a student to the office, it may be 1 or 2 the entire year. Because I do this with them, and they'll tell me now, when you did this, we knew we had to go to your little office in the back of the room and talk
So,
with you.
so basically, your experience as a student is what shaped you to want to be a teacher.
No, I wanted to be a doctor.
Wanted to be a
I wanted to
doctor.
be a doctor. And my mom told me that they couldn't afford to send me to medical school because I graduated in pre-med, but God gave me 2 doctors, as children.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
yeah.
couldn't, because we couldn't really go to any of the other schools. You have to remember, in the 60s, we weren't really, the civil rights movement the civil rights law had not passed yet. So that's why we have so many HBCUs. We either went to Xavier or to Dillard or to Southern University or to Grambling. And my parents couldn't afford to send me to any one of those schools. So I had to go there. I couldn't go to Fisk or any of the
Right.
other
Right.
the other schools. So I stayed there. So what I did, about that time I got married, so I changed my major from pre-med to chemistry and English, or biology and English. Because by that time I had my first daughter, my first child. She is my only daughter. And so I just went on back to school in the summertime. And I got I taught at Holy Rosary for a while, 6 years. Then I went back and got my master's degree gone to night school, and I got my specialist degree. Because by that time I had three children. Then I taught at UL for about 2 years while I was working on my master's, and I taught night classes
How
at
was that
UL.
experience from the experience that you had as a student going, you know, as a teacher?
Well, I had this professor, Dr. Steuben, may he rest in peace. He was my advisor, and he kind of, in a roundabout way, told me about the color thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of learned from that, but I was still me.
Right.
And I was who I was, and nobody could make me feel less than who I was. And still, I really hadn't gotten the full brunt of it until I went to Lafayette High.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw the difference that was made, and I got there. The kids only played basketball or music, nothing else. And the fire lit inside of me. I said, I can't believe this. I said, no way. I said, you can do more than sing and more than be an athlete. And I started the Pride Group. And with that Pride Group, I
And that
started
was at
teaching
Lafayette
at
High.
Lafayette
What
High.
did PRIDE stand for?
People
Okay.
rated, I wanted to name it People Rated Intelligence, Demanding an Education, but they found demanding was too harsh, so they wanted to use desiring an education.
Desiring.
So we started putting on these plays, and before we could really do that, I had to write up a charter. No, I was getting ready to go to school, but in those days, Dr. Baranco was still alive, and excuse me, Dr. Baranco, and I was good friends with a lot of the black attorneys, and Chasson, Tony Chasson, Timmy Chasson's dad.
Okay.
So, and he was a firecracker on the school
Oh,
board.
really?
And he was a Rosary writer. And I had graduated from Rosary, but it always made us know who we were, and we knew who we were, and we didn't back down. So we was getting ready to take them to court when they decided, okay, you write up a charter, let us read over the charter, you check it, da-da-da, and then you can have a club on campus. Because they told us we couldn't. And I wanted to know, why couldn't we have all these white clubs? Why? But you can't have a black club on campus. I'm saying, what you mean we can't have a black club on campus? I say, when we go to the store, they don't separate our money. They don't put black money here and white money there. So which is true, you know, you
Yes,
start to think
yes,
about
yes.
it. They didn't put this dollar bill came from this black person or this. So I started meeting with Dr. Branco and a few other people. Then the parents became involved, and the next thing we knew, we were able to have our charter. So we started Pride. That was back in 1977, and we started going to different schools, putting on plays about Black history. And we had Black History Month, where the kids would start giving speeches or read a quote every day. And we had our play the last day of the February. Black History Month, the Friday. And we used to mix, the kids all had to cook an African dish, and the teachers would come in and they would eat, and they would bring their students to the plays in the auditorium. The administrators really did not come to any of our activities, and so the teachers, I'm gonna be real blunt with you, it may hurt some people's feelings, but the teachers started sending their students to the plays. And when they started doing that, but then I had to supervise all the kids that were in there. So when they started sending their students, then we stopped feeding them. And so then they started giving the students tests on those days. So I complained about that. So the kids who were in the plays
Wait, they start giving them tests.
on the Day by Black History Month program, so they couldn't come to the program.
So they were basically all right.
Oh yeah, they did not. Well, let's put it the way it was. They were basically racist. They did not want the kids to come there
To the program.
Yes.
to the program.
Yes.
So when they stopped coming, we stopped cooking. As simple as that.
So Miss Pat, I want to tell you, you have always look. I'm going to tell you this. I had started losing because I'm 54 now, and I have dealt with a lot of people in my life, and I was to a point just right before I met you where I had just got so accustomed to believing that people with beautiful hearts no longer existed. Listen to me. I'm being honest with you. That beautiful people had no longer existed. And then I met you and I understood that there are still beautiful people in this world. I just want to tell you that publicly. You know, because, and I mean that from my heart. And every time I see you, you look like an angel. If y'all could see, anyone that knows Miss Pat, she's dressed like this all the time.
In her African attire.
All the time. True definition of beauty. So I just want to acknowledge, you know, you and tell you, man, look, this is meeting you and knowing that people out here really care and really know what the true definition of love is such a blessing to me. And I really wish that young people could be around you more, because that needs to rub off, because they're so used to this harsh reality now. They need to know that people like you and your daughter really exist.
Yeah, and
Yes.
because she gives a history. She tells
Yeah,
stories.
yeah.
She gives that history, that same history
Yeah.
that they are trying to block out of
Yeah.
the libraries and
Yeah,
schools.
yeah,
She
yeah,
tells it verbally.
yeah.
You know, and
One thing I didn't mention to you guys before we run out of time. When I was president of the NAACP, we went to Branch, Louisiana, and to Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, and we started chapters out there. But while I was president of the NAACP, I used to get these death threats. And the sheriff at the time was Carlo Listy. When I'd walk out the house with the children to go to mass, we were parked right across the street from my house, 'cause I live on Kali Saloon Road. But not just that. When I went to the office one day to pick up on something, they told me that either David Duke or one of his allies had come to school looking for me, but they would not tell them where my classroom was.
David Duke. I
David
know y'all
Duke.
know that name.
Yes.
I know
David
y'all
Duke.
know that name.
But my thing in helping people, I think that's what God sent me here to do,
Right.
to
Yes.
help
And it's obvious.
meet
It's
them.
obvious.
And when I was canvassing and I saw the way a lot of my people are still living, the poverty that is there, the streets that are all messed up. Now, we are not animals, but we are animals. We belong to animal kingdom. But I mean, we are intelligent beings. Why aren't these streets and these houses fixed up in these neighborhoods? Because you can cross the highway and you see beautiful homes, well-kept yards and all. And sure, we don't make a whole lot of money. I know a teacher does not make a whole lot of money. And so give them the help, because we pay, true, we don't pay the amount of taxes that they're paying because our houses are not as expensive. But why not help? Instead, the kids will go to school and they may be made fun of or they're ridiculed. Or if something happens, get into a fight or something, the black child is punished first. And I remember my youngest son, may he rest in peace, I never wanted any one of my kids on the same campus with me, but he, being the youngest and spoiled and mama's baby, wound up on the same campus with me. So he got into an altercation with one of the students. And one thing you don't do is grab a kid from behind, especially when they're fighting. And one of the teachers did that. And next thing I knew, they had busted a hole in the secretary's wall. And I knew they could try to expel him. So what I did, I went quickly to another school. I had gotten all his grades and everything. Went to another school and registered him. So when they decided to bring him in for a hearing, he was already at another school, so they couldn't do anything. And the teachers laughed about it. Said, Cobra, call me out some more, did you?
I see wisdom.
So I think with the kids in canvassing, the kids need to know the importance of the vote. They need to know their history. They need to know that they are important.
Yes.
And it's time for those teachers and other people to quit putting them down. But we must not help them put us down or wearing our pants all saggy and
Right.
cussing and doing all these other things.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that's
And
my
see all
sermon.
that beautiful wisdom. We want to honor you today, Miss Pat, because all what Marcus said, I feel the same way. I've been calling her queen ever since I met her, because she's always so bubbly and she gets a little mean, but I be needing it when she do it. So we want to honor you today
Thank you.
with a token
Oh my God.
from Vote.
Yes.
Because we appreciate you and all of the hard work you have been doing throughout your entire life.
Entire life.
Not just with Vote, but
It's
with
beautiful, ain't it?
with
Nice.
everybody else
Love
that
it.
you have been on this plaque. I don't know if y'all can see it. It's a beautiful glass plaque. You can't even see it.
It's the white people behind
It's
it.
glass. It has Vote at the top. It says, Miss Patricia Colbert Cormier, we honor you for having the heart of an angel. Thank you for caring and making a difference. Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you
Pat.
so much,
Thank
Miss
you.
Pat.
From
We love you.
Vote, we love you. You just
Thank
keep
you.
doing
Love
what
so
you're
much. Yes,
doing,
ma'am.
and we'll be right there with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate that.
Which happy birthday we singing?
81.
Okay. No, but which version of happy birthday? I always have to ask.
Somebody
Don't know the first one.
Sway gon' lead it. Sway.
Oh yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
One more time.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Miss
birthday, Miss Pat. We love you so much.